I don't know. No, there's no argument. Zeke's ability to punish, Zeke's ability to deliver it, Zeke's ability to what he does for us in pass protection, and frankly, Zeke's ability to make big plays are there, and we're going to go as Zeke goes. I really mean he's that integral to our success this year.
Yeah, Jerry Jones is a pretty big Ezekiel Elliott fan, but not everybody else is. Zeke has definitely fallen from that dominance we saw when he was first coming into the league, and it's been a pretty unfortunate downfall with many injuries along the way that really caused his downfall and made him a little bit more of a bigger back who can't do as much as he once did. But Jerry Jones is insistent on the fact that Zeke is important for this team to win. However, many people have called for Pollard to become the team's leading back, especially after watching him massacre the Bears in what was just a dominant game by Tony Pollard with 2 touchdowns scored. So Tony Pollard has looked pretty good, but Zeke was praised in Jerry Jones' interview for his ability to punish, pass protect, and create big plays. So is Zeke really the better running back at punishing, blocking, and creating big plays? Or is Pollard just being underrated by the Cowboys organization? Let's take a look at it to see how exactly good is Tony Pollard, and is he worth removing someone like Ezekiel Elliott from the starting role in order to put Tony Pollard into a position to get more touches in the game? Let's get into it. What's up, guys? I'm Tyler Coker, and I'm your host for today's episode of Today with Tyler. I hope you enjoy. Now, Zeke is 6 foot 228, and Pollard is 6 foot 209. With nearly 20 pounds difference between the two, you would think Jones was right about Zeke's ability to punish, but I'm not convinced. Despite Pollard's slimmer frame, Pollard actually packs quite a punch himself. Pollard pushes through tackles consistently, proving to be anything but an easy tackle, showing a lot of toughness in his runs. His toughness is combined with an elite contact balance, something that's really often overlooked when you're evaluating running backs. Even when hit square, as many running backs are when they're attempting to punish defenses through the tackles, Pollard's able to stay upright and continue to fall forward, requiring more than one tackler to bring him down and even gaining yards after contact between the tackles and in the box, which is extremely hard to do. While this isn't a shot at Ezekiel Elliott's abilities between the tackles, since he is also good between the tackles and can also punish defenses, I feel the tape shows that Pollard is more than capable enough to punish, and isn't as overshadowed between the tackles by Zeke as Jerry Jones believes. As we will look into next, Pollard is an extremely talented back, but is also one that can fight inside the tackles and push defenders, pretty equivalent to Ezekiel Elliott's production there as well. So Zeke is good, but Tony Pollard isn't bad at it. And so it's a little bit understating to say that Zeke is just that good at punishing, when ultimately Tony Pollard is as well, and surprisingly so. One of the biggest arguments against Pollard has been pass protection for years. But upon researching for this episode, and of course with the help of my friend Josh, PFF graded Pollard a much better pass blocker this year, so I set out to find out why. Turns out the Cowboys almost never keep either back in for pass protection, which made my job pretty hard since I was watching their offense for pass protection reps. But in the reps Pollard did have as a blocker, I don't think he's become necessarily great at it, but I do think he's become significantly underrated by the Cowboys organization at it. Pollard does a tremendous job getting low and anchoring when taking on larger defenders, which is crucial when he's disadvantaged so heavily by weight. Pollard also contributes to double teams very well and helps chip blocks despite his size, making good reads to see which lineman needs help by leverage and powerfully chipping them with his shoulder. That said, Pollard isn't a perfect blocker and relies heavily on the hug technique, sometimes bordering a holding call, in order to keep full-speed linebackers from simply running straight around him as he tries to anchor in to make sure he isn't bull rushed. He arguably did his job in this rep and didn't have to keep the rusher away for that long, but his technique showed room for improvement, and ultimately, it wasn't too effective at neutralizing the blitz since he still ended up getting there. In Pollard's limited pass protection reps, I was overall impressed by his blocking, And while he isn't perfect by any means, it isn't fair of Jerry Jones to say Pollard is so far behind Elliott in pass blocking, as both metrics and the film suggest that Pollard is a good pass blocker. And the metrics even suggest he's significantly better this year than Ezekiel Elliott. The last reason Jones listed as to why Elliott is so important to the Cowboys was his ability to make big plays. A couple of years ago, that was absolutely true. But Zeke has been lacking those same chunk plays he had when he was dominating in Ohio State and in the early Cowboys days. Elliott's longest run of the season came all the way back in Week 3 against the Giants for 27 yards, which isn't very long, and that's his only long that's above 20 yards. Not exactly a big playmaker. Pollard, on the other hand, has 3 games with longs over 45 yards, which suggests that he does in fact supply those big plays Jerry Jones is looking for. Looking at the film, it even makes sense why. Pollard has tremendous bursts that Zeke has just lost over time, punishing even very small gaps with his high contact balance and speed to get chunk plays. Pollard is also a lot shiftier than Elliott is now, finding natural cutback lanes and accelerating through any hole in his line that they can create. He's athletic enough to readjust at full speed to completely avoid tacklers, and is dynamic enough to constantly be gaining ground, which is a very important feature in a running back that you want to be a starter. Pollard has the physical traits to be an explosive back, and he's done so with the same line and scheme that Zeke has had. Not to mention, Pollard is averaging 6.2 yards a carry, and Zeke's only averaging 4.1. That's a big difference for teams that they're using the same system, same coaching, and same line in order to get completely different results. So despite Jerry Jones claiming that Ezekiel Elliott is more punishing and makes bigger plays, the stats seem to show otherwise. So Jerry Jones was a little wrong. That's not surprising. But what is surprising is just how wrong he was. Ezekiel Elliott is a pretty good running back, and while it is disappointing to see him fall off of that dominance he once had, it's also exciting that Tony Pollard has been able to come into the light a lot more. Pollard suggests that he's a running back who would punish, pass protect at an increasingly better level over the years, and make big plays, and the film supplies that as well. But according to Jerry Jones, it's Ezekiel Elliott who does those things. So Dallas kind of has a dilemma, and I know a lot of media has talked about it, but I wanted to bring in a film approach to tell you why Ezekiel Elliott maybe isn't the best starting running back for this Dallas offense, and Tony Pollard should definitely be getting more touches. So for those of you who have him in fantasy, I'm sure you understand that, because when he gets touches, he gets a lot of points, and when he doesn't, he really just struggles. So the Dallas offense really needs to reconsider. Sure, having Ezekiel Elliott is great, and I do think mixing him in with Tony Pollard is a great idea, not only to keep Pollard fresh, but to keep defenses honest. But Tony Pollard is that guy, and I'm afraid it's about time to put him in that starting role, even when Ezekiel Elliott does come back from this injury that he's struggling with. And ultimately, I do think it should be a tandem much more in favor of Pollard than of Ezekiel Elliott. So, contract aside and draft capital aside, we definitely have a better running back in Tony Pollard. But I do think Jerry Jones' ego, and of course, the things that they're spending to have Ezekiel Elliott on the roster, will probably prevent Dallas from really opening up their playbook all the way. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.